Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for us Michigan fans coming early Wednesday morning out of the transfer portal. Former Alabama defensive lineman Damon Payne committing to Michigan. Obviously, for the Michigan fans who follow the recruiting trail quite closely, we remember this kid coming out of high school in 2021, former Belleville kid that goes to Alabama. This move intrigues me for a couple of different reasons. One, you're getting a proven commodity on the defensive line at the Power Four level. It has played a lot of football for Alabama over the last couple of years, and that's just hard to find. Like, it's hard to find proven commodities on the line of scrimmage at the Power Four level. Damon Payne is that guy. To me, remembering this kid out of high school, there's a little bit more that I think you can get out of a guy like Damon Payne. And now he's going into his fifth year, coming back to Michigan, a program that has developed defensive linemen at a very high clip. And that's something that Lou Esposito does not get enough credit for. In terms of pure player development, go back to his time at Western Michigan, maximizing a ton of football players, creating a lot of NFL caliber dudes at Western Michigan. I think Lou Esposito's probably fired up to get his hands on Damon Payne and say, hey, can we reach that next level for you going into 2025? And at the end of the day, Michigan, it was not only about replacing a guy like Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, who you're not going to find replacements to those guys in the transfer portal, but more importantly, can you get a little bit deeper on the defensive line? That was probably what most Michigan fans were looking for heading into 2025, where, look, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, they were awesome, but as they leave to go to the NFL, outside of Rayshawn Benny, there's not a ton of proven commodities on this Michigan roster on the inside of the defensive line. And that's not me getting up here and saying I don't believe in Trey Pierce or I don't believe in Eno Etta. Like, I think those guys will continue to get better, but in terms of proven guys that we know can get it done on the defensive line, we needed a little bit more depth. And Damon Payne certainly gives you that depth, but more importantly, can we tap into that next level for Damon Payne heading into 2025? Really excited to see what this kid can bring and really what he can turn into for Michigan in 2025. Now, I want to get into what that defensive line rotation might be. I want to talk about a quarterback that Michigan's going after in the transfer portal. Before we get into it, as always, to the Michigan fans, many of y'all know I'm a Michigan fan as well. It's been a blast talking this program the last couple of weeks. The amount of support y'all continue to show, I say it every time, it means the world. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, we got a lot more commitments to break down, I think, over the next couple of days and weeks. Without further ado, let's get into Damon Payne. And I don't think this is a commitment that's going to break national media headlines, but for us Michigan fans, we know how important this is. You could be getting a game wrecker, but at the very least, you're adding depth on this defensive line. And that's something that, go back to Michigan in 2023. Yes, we had NFL dudes on the defensive line. What I think made that Michigan defense, specifically on the defensive line, so special was how deep they were. Like, whether it was at the edge spot, whether it was at the inside of the defensive line, it was just NFL dude after NFL dude. And you could just rotate those guys in, keep them fresh for 4 quarters, and really dominate a football game. As good as Michigan's defensive line was in 2024, I don't think Michigan had that same depth. When you lose guys like Jalen Harrell and Braden McGregor and Chris Jenkins, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant on the inside of the defensive line last year, they were playing about 60 snaps a game. It was them playing, and partially because they're just special talents. You don't want to take them off the field. But I also think Michigan might have lacked a little bit of depth on the inside of the defensive line. A guy like Damon Payne, he's going to answer that question. And it doesn't sound like Michigan's done addressing the inside of the defensive line. We talked about a guy in Keyshawn Silver who, look, I would love to see Keyshawn Silver come to Michigan, former 5-star defensive lineman going into his 5th year. That sounds like it's a little bit of a bidding war. And if I'm Sherrone Moore and I'm looking at the resources I have, I don't know if I want to get into a bidding war with a 5th-year senior that hasn't really necessarily proven to be a game wrecker. Let Miami, Florida, USC go after him. I would stick to a guy like Javier Suggs. Javier Suggs is a guy that probably not going to start for Michigan on the defensive line, but we just know we saw him play at LSU for a year. Well, we know this kid can be a proven commodity on the inside of the defensive line. Is he going to be a guy that starts and plays 40, 50 snaps for Michigan? Maybe not, but maybe. But he's going to give you 20 good ones. That's what he did for LSU. And that type of stuff matters. Again, it's about having NFL dudes on the defensive line, but you want to make sure you're deep. 3, 4, 5 guys deep, and you can rotate those guys in throughout 4 quarters. Javier Suggs, probably a guy that's kind of flying under the radar, I think would be another nice addition for this Michigan program. And you land Damon Payne, and then maybe you can go and land Javier Suggs, and then Rayshawn Benny comes back, and then you're looking at Trey Pierce and Nino Ed and saying, all right, I feel like we're feeling pretty good about where the inside of this defensive line is going to be heading into 2025. Now, you might not have a Mason Graham on the defensive line, which I don't know if we're going to see many more Mason Grahams over the next 20 years. That kid was special, but you're going to be deep, and you're going to have a lot of quality depth to rotate in for 4 quarters, and that certainly matters. Damon Payne's a big pickup, and I think a lot of Michigan fans should be fired up about that one. Now, where's Michigan going the rest of the way? I think the next big storyline is DeQuan Finn. To me, this is a perfect fit. And we said Billy Edwards was a really ideal quarterback. DeQuan Finn might even be more ideal for Michigan for a couple of different reasons. One, DeQuan Finn's a good football player. He went to Baylor after his time at Toledo and got banged up and didn't have the success we thought he was going to have. Go back to his time at Toledo, dual threat quarterback that can test and challenge defenses in a lot of different ways. Is DeQuan Finn a guy you win a national championship with? No, probably not. But is he a guy that's going into his 7th year of college football that has shown that he can win a lot of football games? Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what Michigan's looking for in terms of a quarterback they want to grab in the transfer portal. There's a really real possibility that after the bowl game, Davis Warren transfers out, and you're looking at a quarterback room that consists of true freshman Bryce Underwood and redshirt freshman Jaden Davis. That's a young quarterback room. And if you're Sherrone Moore, you want to add a little bit more experience. It doesn't get more experience than a 7th-year senior in DeQuan Finn, who's a Detroit native. The last storyline here that might be the biggest story and most important storyline about DeQuan Finn, a really good relationship with Bryce Underwood, going back to his days, obviously being from Michigan. You're looking for a quarterback that's good. You're looking for a quarterback that's experienced, but you're also looking for a quarterback that is going to get the best out of Bryce Underwood and best suit the development of Bryce Underwood. DeQuan Finn having a positive pre-existing relationship, I think it just even makes more sense for Michigan to make this guy the quarterback that they want to pursue out of the transfer portal. We kind of knew it'd be tough sledding to get a quarterback to come in. This is a really young, talented quarterback room with Jaden Davis and Bryce Underwood. If you can get a guy like a 7th-year senior DeQuan Finn to come in, I think that'd make a lot of sense. 2 more guys I want to talk about, Justice Haynes, and it sounds like he's going to be on campus for Michigan this weekend. I'll say this, if he gets off his visit again to Ole Miss, and if he comes out of his visit to South Carolina, and he makes it to Michigan's campus this weekend, you got to feel damn good about where Michigan sits with a guy like Justice Haynes. And we've spent so much time talking about surrounding Bryce Underwood with dynamite wide receivers, putting the pass catchers around Bryce Underwood in place for him to have success. Probably the best thing you can do for a young quarterback is give him a good run game. Justice Haynes will help that in a big way. I love this kid coming out of high school, and quite frankly, he's been good at Alabama, just hasn't gotten a ton of opportunity. It's hard to find running backs that check all the boxes. Justice Haynes does that. 5'11", 210's got a thick lower half, runs behind his pads, a really, really physical running back. Then when he gets to the second level, has that ability to really create those chunky, explosive plays. You go look at a guy like Donovan Edwards. When he had the opportunity to hit big plays, he did. But in terms of consistency between the tackles, running behind his pads, it wasn't always there. Then you look at Kalel Mullings, who I absolutely love. Really physical between the tackles, did a lot of good things dealing with contact, but maybe lacked that home run hitting ability. To me, Justice Haynes puts all of that together. And I think that'd be a massive storyline. And I think one other intriguing thing to watch is Tony Elford. has a really good relationship with Justice Haynes. Recruited him when he was at Ohio State. So you already have that pre-existing relationship and an opportunity to go to a program that you know is going to run the football. And I think one other storyline coming out of 2024 is this offensive line. Maybe as Michigan fans, we are a little bit too much blindly optimistic that the offensive line wouldn't skip a beat as we replaced every single starter on the offensive line. You saw this offensive line go in the right direction. You go by the 20, like against Northwestern, against Ohio State, this offensive line started to play better football, which, makes sense. We knew we had the talent there. It was a lot of new faces. It was a lot of, not a ton of continuity with this Michigan offensive line. We were blessed with having guys that just had played together for 3-4 years on the offensive line. This year was a little bit different. It took them a little bit to kind of find their best five and find that ideal, kind of that ideal best five starting and kind of come together and gel. I think in 2025, you're going to see a little bit better of an offensive line because you have some guys that now have some snaps under their belt together. One other guy I want to talk about, Cam Calhoun, another familiar face for Michigan fans. Obviously played at Michigan in 2023, redshirted, goes to Utah and becomes one of the best cornerbacks in the Big 12 in 2024 as a redshirt freshman. He's back in the portal. We want to continue to add talent to the cornerback room. It sounds like Michigan's kicking the tires for Cam Calhoun. That makes a lot of sense. And I think the last storyline I just want to buzz by, and it doesn't pertain to the transfer portal, but it does pertain to what this Michigan team can be in 2025. Jaishawn Barham making the switch, or at least sounds like he'll be making the switch to rush off the edge in 2025. One, we've seen guys do this, and it's worked, right? A guy like Abdul Carter played off-ball linebacker for his first couple of years, transitioned to become an edge rusher, emerged as one of the best edge rushers in the country. Number two, I think as a Michigan fan, you're just excited to have Jaishawn Barham back on defense. Like this is a guy that you can tell is physically about as gifted as it gets. Was hoping he certainly could have gone to the NFL and been a draft pick. There's no question about that. But it did feel like there's a little bit meat left on the bone. A little bit more development for Jaishawn Barham that was there. Him coming off the edge, one, he's done it a lot. He did it a lot at Maryland. He did it a lot for Michigan. He has experience rushing the pass. That's probably his best attribute was what he could do as a pass rusher from that off-ball linebacker spot. So I think he can be damn good at it. Has all the physical traits to be damn good at it. And from a personnel standpoint, I think it makes sense for Michigan. Michigan, if Ernest Hausman comes back, Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan going into year two, Nathaniel Wusu-Boateng coming in as a true freshman, you look at that off-ball linebacker and say, it's getting pretty crowded. It's pretty damn deep and good. Okay, let's take a guy in Jaishawn Barham where we feel pretty good at off-ball linebacker, and maybe we want to fill in some more depth and difference makers coming off the edge. Let's go put him there. You've seen a lot of Michigan players have success changing positions late in their career. I think most notably a guy like Mikey Sandstrom. Can you see Jaishawn Barham be that guy in 2025? That's the question. I think he's physically built to come off the edge. And I think as a Michigan fan, you're just excited to have this kid back for one more year because wherever he plays, probably going to be pretty damn good. We'll close it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. I'm sure many more commitments to break down over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.